I want to ask you point blank, do you think there's going to be college football in the SEC, Big 12, and ACC this fall? Do you think that?
Oh, boy. Well, look, I think there is that possibility. I mean, we've always said, or at least, Dr. Emmert and the president of the NCAA and myself, yeah, it's possible. It's an exceptionally narrow path. And there's treacherous waters on either side of that narrow path. But if everything aligned perfectly, it is a possibility.
Well, you mentioned Dr. Emmert, and I want to give you an opportunity to respond. I'm sure you might have heard the criticism that the NCAA has received in the last week to 10 days on this subject alone. That in the same way that you say that there's no national strategy on testing and battling this virus writ large, many people would say that's the same thing that's going on right now in college athletics, Dr. Hainline, that right now you're just letting all the localities and municipalities and states figure it out for themselves and not come down from the top down and say there is no football, there is no sports because of X, Y, and Z. How do you respond to something like that?
Yeah, and I think it's a very fair question, and what is not appreciated really behind the scenes is that when we put out our last document, which actually is a mandate, so every school must follow it, and within that mandate, every athlete has the right to opt out of sport, and he still or she maintains their scholarship and their eligibility. It wasn't just the NCAA that put this document out. It actually was endorsed by the National Medical Association, our advisory panel, the American Medical Society for Sports Medicine, the Power 5 Medical Advisory Panel, and the Committee on Competitive Safeguards. And so you have this very, very large group of experts. They all weighed in and said, the decision is not whether to play fall sports or not. The decision is this is what must take place to play these fall sports. And so with that in mind and looking at the wide variability across our country, we made the collective decision that that really is a conference-by-conference decision. They know what they must follow, except when it comes to national championships. And so we did make the decision on national championships. Regrettably, we had to decide to cancel all the fall championships. But I think everyone knows, or most everyone knows, that we control 90 championships. There's one that we don't control, and that's the college football playoff. What we do control in the college football playoff is what the student-athletes must undergo, and so the mandates are for the student-athletes' health and safety, so they must be followed. But ultimately, just because of historical quirks, the college football playoff is also decided by the conferences.
Dr. Hainline, I really appreciate the time, and so many fans just want to know. Again, it just seems that maybe a document of exactly what you laid out for all of these conferences medically and the science and protocols, again, just putting it all out there and saying this is what we have told all the conferences, and maybe that is necessary. Would you?
Oh, absolutely, and we actually have put that out there,
okay.
And so anyone can access it. It's ncaa.org/SSI.
Okay.
And this document is there along with the frequently asked questions. And so we put a wide release out there. Sometimes it
takes a
doesn't
while.
hit everyone.
Well, hey,
but,
look, I've been on hiatus. Maybe that's where I missed it. But again, it just to see, parents creating Twitter addresses to say, hey, Kevin Warren, hey, Dr. Schlissel, we need to meet. You need to tell us what you've been told. And you're saying this document is there for everybody to be aware of what the president of Michigan and the Big Ten commissioner have been told.
It's there, and actually it's the third document that we put out in a series, and actually for the last 20 weeks we've been discussing this on what's called a social series weekly, so that everyone can hear our thought processes. But sometimes it takes a crisis for everyone to then say, hell yeah, that's where it is, or now I find it, because everyone's busy doing other things or what have you. But we really have tried our best to socialize this and make it widely available to everyone. And I love the feedback, when people read it, because look, we're all trying to figure this out. It's almost like one day at a time.
I bet. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.